I'm excited to be here because, you know, I've been dealing with grief since I was 10 years old. I lost my dad when I was 10 years old. So, you know, having a place like Roberta's house, you know, I don't know if they were around when I lost my dad, but it definitely probably would have been a great thing for me. So that's who I am. I'm a lifelong Baltimorean, West Baltimore, but I grew up all over the city. And yeah, so I'm just Brother Nance. I'm a encouragement coach, educator, healthy living ambassador, and community advocate, just advocating for those that can't advocate for themselves. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. And last but not least, the glue that holds us all together. I want to give it up for Mr. Adam. Mr. Adam, can you give a synopsis of who you are, what you do at Roberta's house, and then you can segue into the men's group. Mr. Greg, can you piggyback and let them know the acronym for the men's group when Mr. Adam is done? And then I'll go into some events going on at Roberta's house, and then we'll get started.
Yes, so good evening. My name is Adam Johnson. I'm the Family Services Manager here at Roberta's house. So my job is pretty much reaching out to individuals and families and just telling them about our services, even just talking to them about their grief. I'm like the initial contact when families and individuals call the agency. So my job is just to kind of make them feel welcome, make them feel important, make them know that their grief is important to us and we're here to support. One of the things that we're getting ready to start very soon is a men's group. And the purpose of this group is to get men to start one, addressing their grief, sharing their grief, and learning healthy coping skills. Because oftentimes as men, we kind of just taught to keep everything suppressed, don't talk about nothing, keep it moving, and then that leads to other things. So we just want to just provide gentlemen with a positive outlet when it comes to grief. And Mr. Gregory is going to speak a little more on that about our group.
Well, I'll say about the men's group, I am so excited about this group because I feel like if we can reach the men in our community, that is going to be so important in moving forward. And I'll tell you why. Because yes, we do have issues as men and expressing ourselves, especially when it comes to things like shedding tears due to grief. And, you know, but guess what? Look at the ones coming behind us. There are a lot of younger people out there who are looking to us for guidance. And without someone to mentor them, they're going to grow up the same way, thinking that they're not supposed to respond in a certain way. So we've come up with this men's group. I'm glad to be a part of it. The group's name is Men of Loyalty and Dignity, or MOLD. MOLD is our acronym. And we selected that acronym because once people are affiliated with this group, once men are affiliated with this group, they're going to be molded into something extremely better by the time they leave.
Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Adam, can you let them know how they can get down with the group or any group at Roberta's house? I'll do my spring cleaning with the goings on that's coming up at Roberta's house, and then we can get started.
Yeah, so if anybody is interested in our upcoming men's group or any group at Roberta's house, they can call us at 410-235-6633, or they can contact me since we're working remotely at 443-436-2513. And once they reach out to me or the organization, we can have a conversation about getting an application sent to them and updating them on our services and when we'll be getting started.
All right, Roberta's house. We have a great crab feast every year to do as a fundraiser. Unfortunately, due to COVID, as many things else, also this summer, it's been canceled. So we're going to have what's called a Grab Crabs and Go. August the 8th from 1 to 4, please come to our location, 2510, our temporary location. We're getting ready to move into our new building soon. At 2510 St. Paul Street, come by, get some crabs, half dozen, bushel. I think I'm gonna get a half bushel, and that'll be my treat to myself with that paycheck. And we're going to, you can also get some corn to go with that. And come by, get some crabs, and support a great cause. We do great things in the community, and we love to for you to come on and support. Actually, and show your face. Some of you are new to us, and due to the Zoom meetings, we haven't seen you before. So come by, let us know who you are. We can shake your hand or dab elbows, do the Wakanda, whatever you want to do. And also for the ones you haven't seen in a while, come back, check, let us know how you're doing. Come and support, okay? And that's August the 8th from 1 to 4 at 2510 St. Paul Street. Come get some crabs and support a great cause. The next one is about that move I just told you about as far as the new building we're in. Right now, we're at 2510 St. Paul Street. We're going to be moving very soon to a great building, a great looking building at 900 East North Avenue. To be a part of this movement, what you can do is buy a brick that we have on sale. The bricks will be placed on the outside of Roberta's house, the lead up into Roberta's house, and in the back in the courtyard we're gonna have. What better way to memorialize your loved one than by showing their name and a special message to them in our courtyard. That brick will be there hopefully forever, and if not, at least through a couple of different lifetimes. So, leave your loved one an imprint from them in our at our facility, and that way every time you come, you can walk by and visit them, and you'll know that they're in a good place. So whenever you need that moment with them, you come by, see your brick, and take it all in. So please support that. Donations are $150 and $300. Time is running out. At the end of the month, we will be cutting it off. Great news. All you have to do is put a deposit down. You don't need everything up front. Just put a deposit down on your brick, and we'll take care of the rest. Well, we won't take care of the rest, but we'll hold off on needing the rest for a little while. But put your donation down, and please support a great cause. Okay, so great segue, guys. Thank you for allowing me and Mr. Adam to put our information out there for Roberta's house. But I do want to do a brief introduction again. It's 6 o'clock. We're going to officially start our men's group, our men's talk rather. And we're going to start off once again with me. My name is Aaron McCracken. I am your moderator. I am a homicide survivor advocate at Roberta's house, graduate of Coppin State School of Social Work. And next, we're going to go to Mr. Greg. Mr. Greg, can you give another brief description of who you are and what you do at Roberta's house?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Gregory Prioleau. I've been a member of Roberta's house for 11 years as a volunteer, mainly working with Camp Aaron, where we mentor kids and we teach them about grief. They're kids from 6 to 17 years old. It's an annual event, which we had to cancel this year due to our current situation with the COVID-19. I've worked as a survivor advocate for Roberta's house and talking to families who were victims of homicides in Baltimore City. I'm retired law enforcement. I was with the Maryland Transportation Authority Police for nearly 30 years there. I worked in the critical incident stress management team, where we had to basically speak to officers who were part or played a part in horrific circumstances just to see that they were okay. And I also had the opportunity to teach police suicide intervention. So I'm excited to be with you gentlemen tonight and anyone who might be listening.
Thank you for that. We're going to give it to Next, our favorite part-time employee, Mr. Roman. Mr. Roman, you can do your introduction. Please let everybody know what you do here at Roberta's house.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roman Swilly. I'm one of the facilitators for the Change the Game program at Roberta's house. It's with the teenagers that are working through grief, and I truly enjoy it. And even though it's part-time, it dominates the full gambit of thoughts and things like that. It's a truly rewarding experience to see young people heal.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Roman can't stay long. That's why I call him the part-time employee. So, but he will get his questions in before he goes. We'll put him to work. Next, Brother Nance, can you? He's our special guest tonight. Brother Nance comes to us from the 21217 zip code. He does a lot of great work down there. So, Brother Nance, can you please once again give a description of who you are and what you do for your community?
My name is Brother Nance. I'm the founder of Healthy People Juice. We're a healthy lifestyle company. I'm an encouragement coach and educator. I'm a community advocate, advocating for those that can't advocate for themselves. And I'm currently the community schools coordinator at New Song Academy in Sandtown in 21217. Also currently working on developing a mesh network with Rowdy Orbit to provide free Wi-Fi for the community. So my community work stems from attacking food deserts and also attacking the digital divide, and also just providing encouragement and guidance for young people and families as well.
Appreciate that, brother. And last but not least, Mr. Elmers himself, the glue of the crew, Mr. Adam.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Johnson. I'm the Family Services Manager here at Roberta's house. So I get a lot of people directed into one of our many helpful and supportive programs. And right now, just here to share what I need to share with these wonderful brothers this evening. A lot of knowledge on this Zoom call. So get ready just to have a great discussion.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay. So the reason why I'm pausing is because this is a difficult question I'm going to ask. It's going to you, Mr. Adam. Mm-hmm. Over the weekend or late last week, there was a young lady and her toddler were in a car and were murdered. I don't know the young lady's name. And the reason why is because once I saw the headline, I couldn't read anymore. And it's to the point sometimes where you got to shut yourself off from the ills of the world, because I have a toddler and I have a niece who's also a toddler. So it was just too much for me to bear. So with that being said, with all of the issues going on, you know, the statues being torn down, police being defunded, all of the protests that's going on, how do you stay focused on Black Lives Matter when you see a senseless murder such as this occur in the midst of what we all think is going to be positive change?
I think all of it's connected. All of this is dealing with Black lives. Like whether it's from the police, whether it's in our community, whether like Brother Nance talked about, whether it's from the food deserts, just the systems, all are connected. And all of them play a role in just what we're fighting for, which is that system, which is just equality and things like that. We want just a fair shot. A lot of our community, I mean, it is disheartening to hear things like that. It is so disheartening because it's just something, like you said, it's just so senseless. And it does take you to a place of just why and how, and it does leave you deflated to a point. It leaves you drained to a point, especially what in our work is that we hear about negativity all the time. But I think as men in the community, we just have to just kind of take the wheel and just lead the way into persevering through these things. And I think one of the ways we can definitely do that is just by having these type of discussions in our communities.
One thing I would want to
this thing.
You said, I wanted to add to that. It just hit me. We can't forget that mental illness is still prevalent. And this is not just community gone bad, crime at its worst. We have to also remember that there are some people that are mentally ill that are cognitively unaware of the season that we're in, and they simply cannot manage the life they're living right now without doing things appropriately. We can't make every crime that happens in our community just Black people behaving badly.
Now, Mr. Roman, I'm glad you said that, because the question I'm going to ask you was, what are some of the barriers that men put up to address the grief? So we're not making an excuse for this young man, but there was some kind of hurt that he had to have felt to do what he did.
Right.
So what are some of the barriers that are put up with that? And then after that, when he's done, Brother Nance, the question for you is going to be, what are some of the destructive actions associated with unresolved grief? So we see this murder that did happen, but there are other actions that brothers choose to use. So Mr. Roman, can you answer the barriers part? And then after that, Brother Nance, jump in there with what are some of the actions that brothers carry out when their grief is unresolved?
Okay, definitely. And it's funny because I'm talking to Adam, Aaron, and Greg. You guys know, and Brother Nance also. Some of the things that I'm going to say. However, there is a system that we have sort of been corralled into, and as we try to survive within the system, we instill certain things within our young people so that they can survive the moment. And they continue to live by those things and they don't upgrade. So when we were coming up, we were told that there were some things that you did not share because they would be used against you and the system would pull you out of the home or they would misuse. So you were taught to keep secrets. Man, if I could do a workshop on the secrets of a Black man, it would probably be one of the most explosive things ever. And I'm gonna tell on Brother Nance for a minute. You walk into a store and I watch them. They don't just sell the kids food. They teach them, hey, when you drink this, this is what it has in it, and this is what it does for you. And when you do this, it helps clean your system. And through that education, they begin to talk, and young men begin to share things that are totally off the topic because they haven't had an opportunity to talk. So one of the barriers that prevent our young men from sharing and seeking out treatment for grief is that they have been taught the method of silence.
I could not agree with you more, and when you're subscribing to that thing of silence, that's when the destructive behaviors come, whether it's being over sexual, whether it's being abusing alcohol, whether it's abusing drugs, whether it's losing respect for adults, authority, and just having lack of love for yourself. For me, what I see a lot of brothers do is, it's something that I call living in your second childhood, meaning that you haven't had a chance to grieve or whatever was bothering you, and you never had a chance to elevate. So as you're going through your adult life, you start living as if you're still a child again. You're still doing childlike behaviors. And again, to piggyback off what you were saying about the mental health aspect, a lot of these youth and a lot of people are passed around from group home to group home, from program to program, and they're not getting any character resolving built with them. So a lot of the things that are self-destructive behaviors, some are organically happens because in our community, when I was younger, I buried all my childhood friends except for two. And how we mourned our grief was have a bottle and write their name on it and have it on your mantle. And then I realized, like, why are we worshiping idol things? Why are we keeping death, the idea of death around us? So I think to answer your question, the destructive behaviors, I mean, like I said, not showing up for yourself, not showing up for others, very lethargic, hopelessness, why me, anger, reserved anger on things that you normally wouldn't even be angry about, a sense of the loss of love in your heart, you know what I mean? And not addressing those things. So, and like I said, that leads into the substance abuse and the physical abuse and the, all things that are crying out for help. You know what I mean? And again, to piggyback off what you said about the silence, even with like me and my team, Like when we hear about somebody, you know, a woman being beat up or something, we on top of that, you know what I mean? And we make sure that we show up because a lot of women are out here moving in silence too, you know what I mean? So it's a very deep thing when you're not dealing with grief off the top. It affects you your whole life, sometimes in the front and sometimes not knowingly internally. I mean, my dad died when I was 10 and I still deal with his death, and I'll be 44 this year, you know what I mean? So, but I've learned how to use it as fuel and not use it as a destructive mechanism, because at one point it was, you know what I mean?
So to piggyback off of this living in silence thing, on Monday I did a Roberta's House talk, and what I said was a lot of us as Black people learn to live in chaos. That no matter the light bulb isn't going to get paid or there's no food in the house, we've learned to subdue, and we coined the phrase turning lemons to lemonade to have to show this triumphantness that we show when we can overcome through all the obstacles. And a lot of the healing we can't get to because we don't even know we need it. You know, it's like, you know, we just go through the day to day and don't even understand that what we're doing isn't normal. You know, it's us just living to get through the day. Where some of our counterparts, they can think about putting investments and stocks for retirement when we don't even know if we're going to have enough money to keep the BG on. We have children that have Comcast bills in their name, credit run when they're 8 years old. So, you know, this whole notion of not only living in having secrets, but to not know what normalcy is. And I know normalcy is a relative term. Everybody has different levels of normal, but I mean, it just is what it is when you grow up Black. You don't know if you're coming home, the lights will be off. You don't know if the phone's gonna be off. You don't know if the cable's gonna be off. You don't know. It's a guessing game. Some people go home, the light switch, and they go, thank you, one more day. And we live in check to check. So, you know, it's a lot of issues that come through our DNA and come through growing up that attaches to us and we don't realize it. So Mr. Greg, with me saying that, what causes men to grieve that aren't just death related? Because we grieve sometimes and don't know it. So therefore, we don't even know how to present it. We don't even know that it's an issue because we don't realize that we're grieving.
Yeah, I'll tell you, every time you look at the news, every time you look at what's occurring around you, there are things out there that'll make you grieve that are not necessarily death related. And I'll tell you, I had jotted a couple things down, and then something else came up. Okay, we know that they're the pressures of life and being Black. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the way you're treated, which brings to mind something that just recently occurred, and that was a Black lady who had her son in a local restaurant, a Baltimore restaurant, and they would not serve him. Because of the way he was dressed. They said they didn't allow things such as T-shirts and athletic shorts and tennis. And as they're speaking, he's looking at, the mother's looking at a white kid who's dressed basically the same way. Mm-hmm. I think he had already eaten, but was about to leave. So, you know, there are things like that that'll make you grieve, okay? Because everything was right there. And because of the way things are and have been for a long time, although it was right in front of the face of everyone there, everyone listening, of course, the mother videoed this, and the employees still continued to say, you are not going to be able to eat here. Yeah. Since then, they've lost their jobs, but that mentality right there that's enough to make all of us grieve. Okay. Along with other things that are going on in life, you know, when you think of things like child support, the lack of jobs, you know, not being hired. I'm going to tell you, I was on an interview board at one point, and there was a Black female that came in there. Bam, bam, bam. She knocked off all the benchmark questions. And I had some white females on that interview board. And when the young lady left, they said to me, well, you know, I don't think she's a good choice, because you see all that background she has. She's just gonna come here. She's gonna be here for a minute and she's gonna leave. And I said, number one, she's qualified. Number two, she's been the best one that has come in here since I've been on this board, and I've seen everybody. You know, number three, whether and how long she stays that's not a part of our benchmark questions. So we should be worried about, while that lady's here, she's going to help. She's going to help this organization, and she's going to be a significant part of it. But you know, it's things like that cause you to grieve. You know, I look around, and you know, we don't have a significant amount of Black leaders who are being vocal. That's why I'm excited about the men's group. That's why I'm excited about this show and being with you guys, because it's going to take people like us to instill, and especially the younger people coming up, what they need to do to let them know that there is some kind of hope. You know, it's going to take us.
So part of the systemic racism that Blacks talk about, that some of our white counterparts don't see and agree with, is the pipeline from school to jail. Okay, and once a Black man is sent to jail for no matter how small the crime, it seems like once they have to admit that on that job application, no matter what they've done afterwards, no matter how educated, how well they do their job, they're not allowed to get a job. The job can instantly say no, and that be that, which forces their brother to go back to doing what he was doing to get money. And the child support can add to that. Trying to support his mom, the PO is calling them 24/7. You know, do you have a job yet? Are you looking? Not looking hard enough? They got to check in. All of these things are compounding this Black man, and it can get to be too much. So, Mr. Roman, I want to ask you, as not only a pastor, but as a mentor, a big brother, at least I see you as that to me. I know you, and you do changing the game. So you want to reach out to the youth to help them. So I want to know, what do you say to somebody when it seems like they're living in chaos? They've been doing it for so long that now something else is thrown in, so now they don't know what they're going to do. So, Mr. Roman, to a Black male whose back's against the wall, who feels like child support is destroying his paycheck, you know, he can't take care of his children the way he wants to, what do you say to them to empower them to keep moving on and to keep doing the right thing and not go back to getting that fast money?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's really strange what I'm going to say, because I am a pastor, but going spiritual is not my first approach. My first approach is very practical and detailed. We start with, you got your driver's license? Do you have your ID? And then we begin to work. But the thing that you have to say, Brother Aaron, and Adam, you know this, and Greg, you know, and I know, Brother Nance, you don't know me, but I know you. So we begin talking to them right where they are. So each young man has different things.
Mm-hmm.
We work with them with what they bring to us right there at that moment. And then we don't say, call me at my desk, call me at my office. If we're at the corner of Green Mountain Eager and he has that epiphany and say, what do I do now? That's when the learning begins, and that's when the teaching begins. Sometimes you got to come out of your pocket and you got to get that man that money. That young man may say, I got an $89 bill that I need to pay. And if I don't get it paid, this is going to happen. I got this. Sometimes you have to help them in that tangible area. But the one thing that I will tell you, and Brother Nance, you might want to jump in on this.
Yep.
You start with right where they are. So it's sometimes very different.
You took the words right out my mouth. Like, I call the concept as is love, right? So I'm writing a book right now called As Is Love, right? So the concept of the book is, like you said, meeting them where they are, right? So you can assess where they are. Because sometimes even us as professional men, you know what I mean, or people that are visionaries, we miss the vision because we're not living where we actually are. We haven't accepted ourselves for where we at, so when you can know where to build upon. Because sometimes we'll live in a space where I see myself where I want to be, where I used to be, but we missed the part on where you at. You know what I mean? Because most people spend so much time dwelling in the past and the problems and not really understand, okay, this is where we at. Just like you said, this is where you at, young brother. All right, you have X, Y, and Z. All right, so this is how we're going to get from A to B, and we're going to walk them through the process. That's the problem, I believe, especially us as Black men in our community is, one, we don't have enough place for us to just share our thoughts, period. You know what I mean? Whether it's sadness, happiness, or whatever. They put something in our mind where you can't share your success with other men. Why? You know what I mean? Like, we have to break the change of the psychological things that they have. So I agree with you 100%. That's how, when I was a school teacher, that's how, when I say my kids, my students were into me. I had them into me. So them being into me allowed them to show up for themselves, because it wasn't about them disappointing their parents. It wasn't even about them disappointing me, but it was about, yo, they wanted to impress me. They wanted to show me, hey, Brother Nance, where you met me at, and you gave me the tools to get where you need to be at, where I'm at, I'm acknowledge that. So I always tell students, and I let people know, even young people, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm going to show you I'm your friend by my actions. I'm going to show you I'm engaged. I'm going to show you that I care. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, people that work with our youth, you know, it's a money thing. It's a picture thing. It's a, you know what I mean? And the youth are getting hip to that. So I over agree with you that the key is meeting them where they are, because a lot of times people are either talking at them or over talking them, or hitting them, like you said, with the spiritual things. Just because you're a pastor, that doesn't mean that's your first approach. Your spirituality is coming through how you engaging with the young brother. They see your spirit as you don't even have to tell them you're a pastor. By the time you finish with them, they're gonna be like, hey man, are you a pastor or something? I'm like, you know what, by the way, you know what, I am a pastor at this church, blah, blah, blah. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of times, you know, people that are working with young people, or just working with people that are grieving, we come in there with our titles instead of our heart. You know what I mean? And we got to come in there with our heart and not our titles.
Yeah. And I'm listening to both of you, and all of that results in what? That means that you're transparent with the children, and you must be that way, because if they don't trust you, and kids can figure that out very quickly, then you are not going anywhere with them.
And you know what, Brother Greg?
Nowhere positive.
I just want to piggyback off that. I had an incident this week, right? So I had a young brother, you know, and how we talking about grieving in different ways outside of death, right? So this young brother, I taught him when he was in middle school. He's now graduated high school. He's pursuing different things that I've told him to do since he graduated high school. And so he has a dude that was mentoring him, not in a program, but somebody just been like one of us elders, just guiding him along the way throughout his life. So he said one time the elder had, you know, got on him real bad, like, man, you wasted my time. You didn't show up, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. So I get a phone call on Monday, like, Mr. Nance, blah, 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 I mean, cussing, I mean, going crazy, right? So I'm like, what's wrong? He said, man, I drove 45 minutes to meet with this brother. He told me who, I ain't gonna put the guy name out there. To meet with the brother. And, you know, I'm a man now. And the one thing you always told me is a man got to be of his word. And I came early just to show him that I took the lesson of what he taught me. So I'll say all that to say is like, one thing that we have to do is we cannot oversell what we can do.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And because they already dealt with enough disappointment. You know what I mean? Disappointment is grief in itself. That boy was hurt the whole day. And I had to talk him off the ledge. Like, look, bro, I said, man, don't let that control your whole day. All that does is show you something that's going on with him. I said, now things do happen, my brother. I didn't throw the man under the bus because he's another black man. So I didn't want to throw him under the bus like, yeah, forget him. I said, you know, you said your piece to him and you have the right to say your piece. And I would feel the same way too if I wrote 45 minutes today. You know what I mean? But it made me think, and I wound up doing a video about it. Like, we got to stop disappointing our young men and women. Like, we got to really,
because they receive enough disappointment, Nance. One thing, Greg, Aaron, when you were talking about the things that we grieve about, now listen, when I start sharing this, you guys are going to nod your head. When they took certain rec centers out of the city, their hearts were broken when they started tearing down some of these old schools. And I remember back in 1998 when they closed Max Gym over there off of Broadway.
Oh, goodness.
What are we going to do? So what I'm saying to you is that it's not just, the grief comes in different ways. When a good friend moves out of the neighborhood, and you walk past that house where he used to live and he's not there anymore. And that teacher leaves that school and you know that was the one safe person who understood you, and they are no longer at that school. It becomes a major issue.
Right.
No, Mr. Roman, it's funny you say that. I used to work for Harlem Park Rec Center, and I left there maybe, like, to me, the writing was on the wall, that stuff was going on, and I bounced to go somewhere else. And less than a year after I left, they had closed the rec center down. And we saw all the rec centers in the neighborhood, because there was one like 2 blocks up, maybe like 4 minutes away, 5 minutes away, walking. It got shut down, we got shut down, and we just saw all the rec centers closing in all the whole city, and all of us were talking, and it was, of course, people were losing jobs, but it was more like, what are the kids gonna do? It's hard enough to get them inside the doors. Now you're going to shut them and close them, and then so what else do you want them to do but break into somebody's house, but to fight on the street, but to slang on the basketball court all day? What you're almost forcing their hand to say, you know, we have no options for you, no pals, no rec centers. This again, so for me, this is one thing that Jack Young did that I do support 100%. He opened some rec centers back up. So of his tenure, this is the one thing I wholeheartedly supported, because I could not understand why they were shut down in the first place. Mr. Adam, I got a question for you, but I'm gonna have a lead up to it, so that way you can try to get your thoughts together.
Sure.
So a couple of weeks ago, an icon in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and Louisville, Kentucky passed away. His name was Wes Unseld. He's a basketball Hall of Famer, one of the 50 greatest players of all time. And he was one of only 2 people, him and Wilt Chamberlain, to be NBA Rookie of the Year and Finals MVP in the same season. With all that being said, that means nothing to me compared to what he meant to me as a man, helping me grow up. My father was murdered when I was young, like Brother Nance. I was only 3. And when you're young, you look for those role models, and you don't even know you're looking for one. But as you grow up, you realize that's what you were in search of. And that's what Mr. West and his family was to me. They were role models, and they were people I wanted to be like, and I wanted to show that I was going to do good in my life because of how much they meant to me. Mr. West took me under his wing. He took me home. My mom couldn't get off work in time. You know, he was just a very instrumental part of my childhood. And I just want to segue into when Brother Nance was speaking on how the young brother got let down. We need, and Brother Mr. Roman said, we need to be there for our youth. Did you have someone in your life as you were growing up? Not to say that was it your dad, or uncle, or teacher? Was it somebody that mentored and helped craft you to do what you're doing? So what you're doing is they almost passed the torch because you're here to help young men also. So who is there for you? What male figure was there for you to help guide you to where you are?
I would definitely say like my father. And the way my father did everything, he did everything through action. He never had to stop and be like, this is how you treat a woman. I saw how he treated my mother. This is how you take care of it, because he didn't have to say it like that. I just saw how he took care of me and my brother. And one of the most interesting things, wherever school I went to, my father was very involved, either showing at PTA meetings, volunteering, whatever. And like one time in the 3rd grade, my father substituted one of my classes. But the crazy thing is that a lot of my friends gravitated towards him because he was a positive male. He would give them attention that they weren't getting at home. He would ask them how you doing? Hey, how did this go? When they would get upset, he could calm them down on the spot. And just seeing that, just having that heart to help others really impacted me, because it was like, in growing up in Baltimore City, that my father was more so an anomaly. He was more so an outlier. And I wanted to do my part to help the young men and the young women in our city to show like a young Black male can be there for you. He can be there for support. And tell another Black male, like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to say, Mr. Johnson, I'm mad. Like, whenever I worked in schools and the first time I walked in, the first people who would come to me would be the males, be the boys, because they really don't see us in these type of settings. So they would just they'd be like, who are you? What's your name? What are you doing here? Oh, how can I come talk to you? And it's like just that, because they're just not used to it. And I was telling Mr. Greg not long ago is that when the kids would get in trouble or certain things, they would come find me. They were like, oh, let me speak to Mr. Johnson. Oh, please go get Mr. Johnson. And one of the teachers were like, well, you let these kids get away with murder. And I said, but the way they respond to you is completely different, the way that they respond to me, because I show them that I care. I know things about them. I ask them, how you doing? Ask them, hey, what's going on? Hey, even like Brother Nan said, like, even as Black men, we don't celebrate one another. And like the kid can just be something small, like, hey man, like I scored 10 points in this game. I'm like, man, like that's great, man. The last game you only had 6. So you're improving to 10. Like just those small things can do so much for a young mind, a young Black mind. So, and something else I was going to touch on, like you guys were talking about when we had these losses that are non-death related, is that we don't check in. We don't check in. If our favorite teacher, let's say Mr. Lance, is a school community coordinator, if he leaves the school and then there were kids who have relationships with him, no one's going to check in on those kids and be like, hey man, how did Mr. Lance leaving affect you? It's going to have an effect on them, but we don't take that time to like check in with our youth to see how they're doing. I think that's like one of the major, I know I got off topic a little bit.
Fine.
No.
But because I think that's really important. I think it's not just with Black youth. I think a lot of teachers, now don't get me wrong, teachers do have a rough job. It's very unrewarding to a certain degree, at least from the staff perspective, whereas they don't feel supported. But what I will say is, when it comes to speaking to children, you have some teachers that get upset when certain staff can come in and save the day, and they want to know why they're doing that, and it's because they don't have the rapport. Like rapport is so important when you're dealing with youth and people, period. If people don't feel connected to you, you can talk and tell them everything that is correct and that is right in the world. But in your delivery, if you're not giving it to them the way they can receive it and know that you care, they're not going to care what you got to say. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big issue with our community. I know me being I'm not as old as some of the veterans on here, but I'm also older than some of the youth that are coming up. So I'm kind of in the middle where I can still relate to the youth and speak to them on their terms. and get them to see things, differently. But I do see sometimes a generational gap that gets built between our thinking and the youth thinking. So, Mr. Greg, I'll come to you with you. No, Mr. Roman, could you work with teens? Mr.
Oh,
Roman.
Mr. Roman gone.
Oh, gone. He
Mr.
left because
Roman.
he had to leave. That's right. Okay. Mr. Greg, when you work with your teens work with teenagers, because the little ones not really so much, but for the teenagers and adolescents and young males, young black males, do you see a disconnect in what you're trying to and in the two generations, or well, I know it's a 2 or 3 generation gap, but do you find it more difficult to speak to them because they feel like you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't know what they're going through?
Well, you know what? I really don't find it difficult. And I say that because when I'm dealing with younger people, and it's the same with younger or older individuals, you have to go to them with an open mind. Because right now, the everything, the music they listen to right now, this generation of the millennials, it's not the same as the music I listened to in the 70s.
Or 90s,
Temptations, the stylistics, and
right.
You can't. To me, you can't replace that music. You let one of them listen to it, and it's like, man, what are you listening to? But because I have twin nieces, and they used to say the same thing. But now they're saying, Uncle Greg, you know what? I listen to your music now, and that was the best music of all times. And so, when I go to the younger people, I let them know, hey, I am concerned about your livelihood. Okay. I want to, how are you doing? I need to know that. And once you get to know them, it's just like people in your family. I was joking about that today because with my family, we're wearing the masks. Everyone's wearing the masks right now. I can look in their eyes and I can tell what they're feeling. Gotcha. So whereas somebody, I'm in the Baltimore County school system now, working as a paraeducator. So I'm able to connect with a lot of the children. And I think it is because I show them that I care about them. I ask them, is your family okay? That kind of thing. And I mean that. And because of that approach, at one point I had a teacher telling me that a kid was being disrespectful because they weren't saying too much. They seemed to be drifting off. And I found out that the kid's dad had just been murdered the month before. And that's why he had the attitude he had. He wasn't a mean kid, wasn't a bad kid, but he was suffering. He was suffering. So I don't think I go to them. Obviously, a younger one, just say elementary school is different to someone in high school or what have you. But I think we said it earlier. Brother Nan said it, Mr. Roman said it. We have to meet them where they are.
Gotcha. It's funny you mentioned the music. Brother Nance, I see the big pun picture behind you. Mr. Greg, it's not our music neither. So don't worry, you don't feel bad. It's not our music neither. I don't know what they're saying in these, I turn the radio off the same way my mom did. So I get you.
I hear you, but my daughter laughs at me because she'll come in and I'll be looking at some kind of Tupac movie or what have you, or I'll say, hey, that's Biggie. She's like, what do you know about that? But I'm talking about, even though they were in a different age or whatever, different generation, those were some intelligent guys.
Gotcha.
And I try to find out everything about everything if I can.
And see, that's the difference. See, each music, each generation of music. I'm a music guy. Like, music saved my life. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for music, I wouldn't have survived after my dad died. Music allowed me to see stories and allowed me to imagine and see different things. But this music right now, currently, it's a really direct reflection of the pain. That music is pain. That music is depression. That music is I'm not my brother's keeper. Their music is I'm living to die young. Their music is no opportunities, opportunity-less. You know what I mean? So if you really listen to the music, you know, I had sessions with kids, they call me a generational music hater, right? And I'm like, nah, what you mean? Let's break down the lyrics. I mean, that's in my studio. They be like, Mr. Nance, you're a generational hater. I'm like, nah, yo, I said, yo, I love y'all beats, yo. Y'all beats are hard. You know what I mean? I said, but y'all words, bro, like I said to my son was like, well, Dad, you don't really listen. I said, well, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I said, I'm gonna take a whole day and I'm gonna listen to satellite radio, right? I'm gonna listen to y'all music. I left the house feeling inspired. I was pumped up. By the time the midday come, I was angry. I was wondering, like, why am I sad? Like, I wanted to go get a drink. I wanted to do all types of things than what I wanted to do, because I was just listening to it. And you gotta realize they got headphones, so that's in their subconscious all day, all night, walking to school. And then you see I call this generation the loveless generation, because they're not getting their birthright, which is love. That's their birthright. They're not getting it from the schools. They're not getting it from the community. They're not getting it. TV is telling them, we don't like you. You understand what I'm saying? A restaurant little boy saying, you can't eat here because you got on Jordans and you look too cultured. You know what I mean? So they are experiencing so many different levels of trauma and grief. We have no idea what they're dealing with. None of us adults really have no idea what these kids are really dealing with. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I'm seeing some strong kids break down in my office or in my room. It's like, Mr. Nance, I just need to talk to somebody. Little girls feeling so much pressure. You know what I mean? Little boys feeling so much pressure. It's not okay to be smart. You know what I mean? Like, it's so many. I mean, and the music, imagine the music changing a different wave, but they can only talk about what they're feeling. Just like in the 70s, they was in the 60s talking about liberation and black love and fight the power and we need to do this. Same thing with our music in the 80s and the 90s. You know what I mean? It was bucking the system but still build yourself up, knowledge of self. Our music back when I was coming, it was all about knowledge of self, understanding yourself first. This generation is like, don't care about yourself. No one cares about you. You did it on your own. Nobody has your back. That's all the music is saying. I got it by myself. I'm doing it myself. I'm gonna sleep with my man homegirl. I'm gonna sleep with my man wife. I don't care. We live in balls to the walls off. So we gotta meet them where they at. And like I said, the music is vibrational. So I know we kind of went on a tangent, but I think that's very important.
No.
Environmental things are very important. From the food deserts, for them not having proper adequate food, for them not drinking enough water, for the radiation signals that they're getting in their community, from the poor air quality. I mean, it's so many things. You got kids walking around here with lead undiagnosed. You got parents that got lead poison and they're putting the poisonous mentality on their kids because they're not cognitively there. So it's when people talk about youth and youth being out of control, we got to go to the root. You know what I mean? We got to go to the root. You know what I mean? So sorry I went on a little tangent, but
no, it's fine. Because Brother Nance, what you said about each generation's style of music, since our ancestors, they beat on their drums and did their chants.
Sweet low chariot, you know what I mean?
And did that to there was their release. It was their, getting that scream, that yell out. And each generation has had their share of what their music is about. When our ancestors, freedom.
Yep.
I gotta get out of here. They did this bondage, and I'm tired. I can't do this no more.
Yep.
And the strength that is drawn, that blacks use that we draw from music, and they help us carry on. I know there's 20 songs I can put on, from 10 from each decade. It don't matter what decade, from the 70s to now, I can put on that's going to help me get through my day.
Yep.
It's going to help uplift me. It's something it's a word, it's a line, it's a tone, it's a beat that's going to help me move forward. And I don't think people undervalue the strength that is in each. Our parents couldn't understand our music. My mother snapped when she heard Snoop Dogg album. you know, but it's another story, another time.
Hey, but wait a minute. But, don't look. I'm sorry I got this started, y'all. Now, I did not say how much I love their music. I said these were some intelligent cats. Okay.
Right.
But you have to listen to that music.
Right.
Because otherwise you wouldn't even know what's driving the kids.
Right.
Understand what I'm saying?
And also, the music has what they're saying. So you can be in the corner store in the market, hear them talk, and it's a whole nother language.
Right.
And if you don't put that music on or give it a try and just sit down for a second, you'll be all kinds of lost. You know, so music to me is and that could be another subject also. But music to me is so vital to the essence of each generation and what we're trying to say. As you said, in 88, 89, self-destruction, fight the power. I think it's we are the same coast. Like, you know, you had that from the rappers, and you know, cause they realized what was going on in that community. We run out of time, fellas. So there's one question I want to ask, and we got about 10 minutes left. So, dive into this question. I want to know from all three of you, what is it going to take to break this generational curse that we have? What do you think is going to take micro, meso, macro? Micro, individual. For those that don't know, micro is individual, meso is individual or group, family, and macro is policy. So what is it going to take? You don't got to do all three levels if you don't want, but just in your opinion, what do you think is going to take to break the generational curses that afflict us? Is it going to be us coming together? Is it going to be the old and young having to have to hug it out and realize we're on the same page? Is it going to be us having to I saw today people are starting to say they want to tear down Mount Rushmore. Is it going to be some drastic action that's going to have to drive? Like, what is it going to take for us as a culture, as Black people, to break the generational curse that is upon us?
Well, can I take a stab at it?
Yes, sir.
So one thing is we have to restore the Black family. And I'm not talking about the Black family far as being in the same household. Understanding that once you have a child with someone, you are now related. You know what I mean? You are now, whatever happened in between, you may not like your relative every day, but you always gonna love them. You know what I mean? So we have to change that mentality. I think that's one piece. I think the second piece is we have to be honest on where we're at. You know what I mean? And really build some infrastructure, real life infrastructure. Policies can change, infrastructure can change, but until we create our own tables and build our kids, because this generation got way more heart than any generation, in my opinion. They just have misguided. No one is guiding their energy because they are bold. They are not afraid. And it's like they got the warrior spirit of Shaka Zulu, but don't have the mindset of a Marcus Garvey. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so they are just rebels without a pause, without a cause. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that's one thing. And I think ownership is the key. You know, teaching our kids about the financial landscape early. You know what I mean? And letting the hustlers know and the entrepreneurs and the schemers and scammers know, hey, pull your money together and you can buy up your whole neighborhood. You know what I mean? And when you got ownership of things, you treat things better. When you own your car, when you paying on a car, you hate paying that car paying. But if something happened to that car, you like, yes, God, please take that car. But if it's a car you own, you're going to take very good care of that car. Mm-hmm. I don't care what's going on with that car. You're going to make sure that car is pristine because it's doing something, it's feeding you. So I think that, you know, it's going to start there, us having honest conversations, meeting the young people and just Black people in America where we at, and understanding that we need to create our own tables. It's not about joining nobody else's table or waiting for not waiting for someone else to give us the next directions. Let's create the directions that we want, and let's create the environment that we want, and let's create the energy that we want moving these children forward. We're dealing with grief because we're dealing with grief on multiple levels. So I hope that answered your question, but I think the main thing is we got to restore the Black family. And I'm not saying Black family far as in two-parent household. I'm talking about Black family understanding, community family. Like that is the key. You can't have nothing else until you restore the Black family. We can't even get to the macro, micro, whatever. We can't get there until we restore the family structure. Because I didn't get a chance to chime in on who was a man that influenced me, but it was a Muslim brother when my dad died named Mr. Ishmael. He had sons. And he took me and my brother in like we was his sons. And he led by example and words. You know what I mean? And that's how I've conducted myself ever since. So I like to thank Mr. Ishmael, God rest his soul, because he poured a lot into me. And when I went to his funeral, with so many men my age, that's my age now, we all had the same story about this man. You know what I mean? So he did his part. So it started with him showing us how to do a community family and restoring the Black family.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Brother Nance. I appreciate your words. Mr. Greg, couple of minutes, please.
Yeah, I won't be that long. Brother Nance said a lot. He said a lot. It's not a whole lot else to really be said. He mentioned transparency. We talked about that earlier. Number one, if you don't get the kids to trust you, you're not taking them anywhere but down. Okay, so we need that. We know that. We've spoken about that. So I'll try to add on to what he said. I think our younger people need exposure. And to that, I mean, not only to their history, that's a big one right there. And I'll just use this example, and I'll let you guys let you go to Adam. But some kids from school were taken to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and it was the first time some of them had ever been out of Baltimore. Okay, first time. And we didn't take all Black kids because other races should be exposed to our history as well, because a lot of it we didn't get in school. We got all this other history that, you know, didn't really mean too much to us or apply too much to us, but our kids need to be exposed. They went to that museum and they saw everything from slavery to the modern day rappers. It blew them away that rappers were in that museum. And they came back, Mr. P, this is what we saw. This, do you believe that? Do you know they had this in it? Yes, I know. But you know what? I'm glad you know now. You know, but don't even leave it there. You have to do things. Look, one day you're going to do something like you're going to go fishing. Mm-hmm. You might go play golf with Brother Nance. You know, I grew up, we didn't have any golf in my neighborhood in East Baltimore. You know, we had Little League baseball. We had a little bit of football. So all of that is surrounding exposure. Our kids need to be exposed to other things to let them know just what you see, the killings, my man's told me this. No, let's go and get educated on some things.
Mr. Adam?
Yeah, I think both Mr. Greg and Mr. Nance said so much, so I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. But one thing I just want to add on is healing. And because we're living with generational trauma, generational curses, like the violence we see is linked to trauma, the substance abuse, trauma, there's just that, Brother Nance, that hopelessness all goes back to trauma. We, as African American, walk around with so many burdens but we don't want to express them and share them and things like that. So I think the healing is just one facet, one aspect of just how we get to a point where we can improve in so many ways, because even just so many things have happened to us, not just on a macro scale, but just on a micro scale. And we were always told, don't say anything, don't let that leave the house, that's no one else's business. And just imagine being 12 years old, going through so much, and everybody telling you, don't say anything. If you just bottling it in, that's why you're tense. And like what Brother Nance said, there's no channeling it because I'm just so angry because I have no healthy outlet. So I think giving each other these healthy, open our arms to one another, like, yeah, I'm here to listen. And that's what a lot of people just need, like, I'm here to listen and just be genuine and sincere about it.
And you know what else to add on that? And we also got to stop living. A lot of adults need to stop living through their kids and living with their kids. You know what I mean? Because that pushes kids away too. You know what I mean? Because you didn't make it in the NFL. Maybe I don't even like football. Maybe I don't even like to get hit. Maybe I don't even like being outside getting dirty. You know what I mean? But I'm doing that because you're not living with me. You're living through me. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of our children get the burden of, like, our children have adult responsibilities at like 6 and 7, 8 years old. I'm not talking about washing no dishes. I'm talking about watching kids, and you know what I mean? And I mean, they got adult problems young. And some adults, we can't even process stuff at 40 and 30 and 28 years old. So how do you imagine a 10-year-old who's cognitively not even developed to even understand how to process the emotions that are associated with growing up in this toxic environment that we live in? We live in a very over-sexual environment. I mean, everything is being sold through cartoons, through commercialism, through everything. You know what I mean? So I would definitely say that I agree with everything that everyone said, but I definitely think the number one major thing is, you know, we have to level up our parenting. You know what I mean? Because the grandparents are dying. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's going to take brothers like myself. I'm not that old yet, but I mean, my kids think I'm an elder. You know what I mean? Like, I went from unc to pops to, you know what I mean? Like, I done graduated. You know what I mean? Like, big homie to unc to pops. You know what I mean? Like, so now it's like a different wave of energy, but I'm still, you still got to be relevant, and you're going to keep yourself young. So again, you know, us as thought leaders, those of us that engage with young people and engage with families, you know what I mean? We just have to always make sure we're coming from a non-judgmental space. You know what I mean? Because that's important. You know what I mean? You know, I done been in houses where I'm setting a Wi-Fi up, I'm setting a computer up for a kid, and there's a roach crawling out the modem. You think I jumped? You think I said anything? No. You know what I mean? I just treated it as normal behavior, even though I was a little bothered. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, it made me want to work harder. Like, well, how can I help this young man? What can I do to help the grandmother who's bedridden and his parents are not around? You know, what can I do? So, you know, again, it's about uncovering the layers when you're dealing with grief. It's about, you know, discovering where the root lies at. Sometimes the root may not even be, you know, the person that just got killed. It may be something that happened 15 years ago that you never dealt with, and that killing sparked that. You know what I mean? And like Aaron was saying earlier, like walking past a friend's house or walking past a teacher's room that you had a great relationship with and they're gone, and you had no one else to feed your spirit. So again, I just encourage everyone to continue to feed their own spirits and be genuine and intentional with yourself, because consciousness is just as contagious as COVID. You know what I mean? Our collective consciousness. Because if I share something, I'm pouring into my kid gonna share it with the next kid, that kid gonna share with someone else, that thing, know that's going to the parents. Why are you acting this way? Why are you doing something different? So thank you again, you guys, for having me. I appreciate it. I hope I didn't say too much, but what I do, man, like I love speaking with my people. I love speaking for the people. And you know what I mean? Because it's bigger than all of us on this phone. You know what I mean? This mission that we on, this war that we in, it's a war of attrition. It's a mental war. You know what I mean? And we have to physically prepare ourselves for this mental war. We're not going to be able to endure it. So I just suggest everyone to take care of your physical health, take care of your mental health, you know what I mean? And just create the life and the energy that you want around you. So thank you again, brothers, for having me. And I look forward to our discussion again.
Definitely.
Well, that'll be it for Roberta's House Men's Talk this evening. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you would like to join, if you know a male that may want to join, please reach out to us. Reach out to Adam. Mr. Adam, give him the number. It's 410-235-6633, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So call that number, ask for Mr. Adam, and we'd appreciate you passing the word along. So good night from Roberta's House. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Peace.